A soul that passed away in the previous life might come back in a new body if it has unfinished business. And while some remain skeptical of reincarnation, here are 3 bone-chilling stories of people who remembered their past life, and some even solved their own murders. First up, the boy who solved his own murder. Years ago, a 3-year-old boy from Golden Heights told his family that he had been murdered at the hands of an evil man. The boy had a long red birthmark on his forehead, claiming that this was a symbol of how he was killed, a blow to the head by an axe. The family decided to further pursue his claims by taking him to the village he said he was from, and as soon as he got there, the boy began recalling his name in the past life. So they went around asking the local villagers if they knew someone with this name, and the villagers told them that the man they were looking for had been missing for 4 years. Now as the boy was being led through the village, seeing everyone, something struck and he remembered the first and last name of his murderer. And suddenly, the boy walked up to a man and called him by his name and said, "Aren't you him?" The man answered yes. Then the boy said, "I used to be your neighbor. We had a fight and you killed me with an axe." It's said that the man suddenly turned as white as a sheet. The 3-year-old boy then told everyone, "I even know where he buried my body." And so he led the elders to a specific spot, and after removing piles of stone and digging through the ground, they found the man's skeleton, which had the same wound on the forehead that corresponded with the boy's birthmark. He then took them to another spot where the axe was buried, and upon confronting the man, he ended up confessing to the murder. Next, Reena Gupta. In New Delhi, India, lived a girl named Reena. She was only 2 years old when she told her grandmother, "I have a husband. My husband was a bad man and he killed me." At first, no one took those claims seriously, but as time went on, Reena would constantly seem uneasy, always going to the balcony and gazing into the busy streets, alert and in search. It didn't stop there, cause when she was in the family car, Reena would be on edge as well, as if she was on the lookout for someone. Anytime people asked her what was wrong, she would reply with, "I'm looking for my husband and my children." Years passed and Reena's connection with her previous life would continue, as she would keep talking about her children and her heartbreak from being torn apart from them. That was until one day when a colleague of Reena's mother told them about a family whose story aligned with hers. Now this part's really important because it led them to Sardar Kishan Singh and his wife, who were parents of Gurdeep Kaur, a woman murdered by her husband on June 21st, 1961. The Singhs were intrigued by the possibility that Reena could be linked to their dead daughter, so they paid a visit to them. As Reena was just waking up from her sleep, upon seeing the Singhs, without even being told who they were, her face lit up and she said, "They're my father and mother." The next day, the Singhs brought Gurdeep's sister Swarna to see Reena, and as soon as Reena saw her, she immediately called her by her nickname, Sarno. Reena was then taken back to the family's house where she instantly recognized herself as Gurdeep in a photograph. But not long after, the news got out and it grabbed the attention of Surjit Singh, the husband and killer of Gurdeep. By then, Surjit was out of prison due to good behavior after serving a 10-year-long sentence for murdering his wife and her brother. So naturally, he decided to pay the family a visit. But when Reena heard he was coming over, she had no wishes of seeing him, saying, "He will kill me again." Despite that, they ended up meeting in 1975 when Reena was 9 years old, and a photograph of them taken together shows just how uncomfortable Reena seems around him, convinced that this was the man that murdered her all those years back. Up next, James Leininger. From a young age, this little boy was insanely familiar with aircrafts. He would even draw battle scenes from World War II. Not long after, James started having 5 nightmares a week, screaming things like "plane on fire" or "little man can't get out." His parents began questioning him about what he was saying in his sleep, like what kind of plane he was in, which he said, Corsair. Then they asked why his plane crashed, and he replied with, "It was struck down by the Japanese." "Well, where was your plane launched from?" He said, "An aircraft carrier named Natoma." Then mentioning his name in the previous life was coincidentally James as well. The parents wanted to disprove their son's claims, so they tracked down US veterans for some answers. After getting in touch with them, it was confirmed that the person the boy was talking about was in fact James Houston, a fighter pilot who was struck down over Chichijima, Japan. The little boy then met Natoma Bay veterans and instantly recognized them by name. They even tracked down the sisters of James Houston, and again, he recognized them and called them by their nicknames. Not only that, but he knew things about their childhood that only James Houston would know. As this story got out, it got the attention of Japanese filmmakers who flew James out to Chichijima, Japan. And apparently, without any sort of guidance, James knew and told everyone exactly where his plane had crashed. Crazy stories. But do you guys believe in reincarnation? Or do you still think it's BS? And if you do, how would you explain these stories and the kind of evidences that come with it? Let me know in the comment sections below. Smash that like button for the algorithms and subscribe for a lot more content like this, and I'll see you guys next Saturday.